good. Let me know, Andy and Bill, who are here already. Let me know if the audio is okay. We're going live here in about 8 minutes, but I'm going to play a video. Gotta love VAR, Andy says. Oh my gosh, yeah. In fact, I am ready to start a petition against offsides VAR. I mean, this is just ridiculous. We're talking like superhuman computer accuracy that is not necessary. Hey, Blake, I'm putting on some socks. You all should be consider yourselves very fortunate. It's kind of like Mr. Rogers here, actually, a little bit of my childhood. Basically, you should consider yourselves very fortunate as I treat you all very, very important to me, and I shower before I go live. You can't smell me, and yet I still do it. I shower. Maybe it's just out of principle and out of like some sort of psychological benefit. Oh, how is that light? Seems fine, but maybe a little too bright. 4%. 4% is maybe better. That's more like the classic look. Hello from Santa Cruz. So far, you're sounding good. All right, cool, Argus. Thanks, man. Ron says, hey, all. Bill says, sounds good to me. Blake says, hi, and already said hi. That's right. Okay, cool. Awesome. So I'm going to hit you up with the 7-minute video, and we'll go live after that. So be back momentarily. Day 3. This is the third place I've gone. Didn't go very far because I went up to the silo the first time, then went up to Salt Flats, that's 2 hours north, and back home, and then third night, the trestle. Actually, the silo is just about 18 minutes up that direction, and so this is close to the silo, and this is the train trestle. It's an abandoned train trestle, and 3 days into my 23 days of doing a Milky Way every night for the great Milky Way chase, I have to admit, I think the challenge so far is that I'm not getting a lot of sleep. Just like last night, I'm using this Rokinon lens. I think I'm gonna use the Rokinon lens every video. This is my Canon 5D Mark IV. At the trestle, there's a couple shots. There's this area that you can shoot down the tracks in a late Milky Way, and then you can also go down below. This railroad tie right here only goes so far. You can't see it in the shadows there, but it terminates at that point. It doesn't have any more railroad ties, and this abandoned, like, wooden cool trestle is awesome. And so I come here and I get a shot in the late Milky Way season, and I go down all the way, or I shoot down this and see the Milky Way all the way down at the end, or I go down there and I capture what I'm going to capture tonight. I was just thinking about how scary it is coming here alone. I don't know what it is about going across abandoned constructions and buildings. You feel like everything's haunted. I'm walking across this trestle already thinking about the ghosts and going, no, Aaron, keep it together. There's no ghosts here. There's nothing out here. You'll be fine. And then these two giant wings start flapping, and I think there were a pair of owls maybe, because birds typically don't fly at night, and they were too big to be bats, and they flew out from perched underneath this and scared the dickens out of me. Oh my god. So I'm gonna get this done quickly. I'm out here now trying to set up my shot. This area below, can you see it? No, you can't see anything. There you go. That is the train trestle. Woo! So now I need to light this thing from this side where I can shoot through it and see the Milky Way. I've done this many times, but I'm wondering how I want to do it tonight, because I want to have my lights come at a different angle than where I'm shooting from. So if I am shooting from around here and see the Milky Way over there, I want the lights to not be in this angle, because then everything's really flat. I want it to have a nice oblique angle, crossing angle, perpendicular angle. That's gonna make this look good. So I think what I'll do is I'll put the light over there this time, really, really low, shining across this way. Now first, I'm gonna try a light behind, because I have two lights. I just don't need to show you guys me. So I'm gonna do a backlit rim light plus a side. I've never done that before. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna try that out. So I'm capturing right now. What I'm doing, before I turn this light off of me and I go and place it over there, I wanted to see how my rim lighting is looking. And so that is a little bit too bright. And so now I know to go back there, bring that down, and then come and highlight it. But it's spooky looking, it's cool. I kind of like it. I am going around trying different compositions. This time of year, when the moon is not going to be up at 12:52 a.m., I can wait for the Milky Way to go more vertical and get the shot that I can get from over there, looking down the tracks, and the Milky Way is turning up, you know? So it's nice. And so from here, being low, still kind of a cool arching panorama, what do I want to do? Do I want to put a Milky Way over this silo right here and then do a panorama like this? Or, I mean, on the right there'll be this lit trestle, and on the left there'll be dark silhouettes against the sky of a hill and a road and a fence. I don't know what I'm loving, so I'm keep trying different options. Check out these ones while I walk over there to the other side and try my typical composition. Okay, so I tried a shot up close underneath the train trestle. You can kind of see the wood beam there. This is something I never shot, where I've shot through the train trestle and I can see the Milky Way core right there. Check out this. See it on my image or the LCD screen? You can, it's a little too bright. But I'll check it out, show you in the other picture. But this might be the shot I come out with tonight. It might be something that's great, or I need to go back and kind of do the thing that I'm typically used to. So we got this panorama. I went all the way from there, all the way till it ends with the arch over there at Cassiopeia on that hill. So I got the full arch in there. Let's see if this works. I'm at the light on the other side. I'm freaked out of my mind. Being out here on my own and going underneath the train tracks. I mean, I'm ready to get out of here. I feel like someone's behind me right now. So thanks for watching. If you guys are enjoying this, follow Photog Adventures. Go to our Instagram at Photog Adventures. Follow mine and Brendan's photography as we go out on all these adventures. If you want to hear all the behind the scenes stories of what went well, what didn't go well in our photography, and what funny thing and misadventure happened while we were out doing photography, follow our podcast. Check it out, Photog Adventures Podcast. If you guys like Milky Way photography or landscape photography, you'll enjoy hanging out with us. So see you guys. See you next video. Night 4 of my 23 nights of going out for the Milky Way every night. Hashtag the Great Milky Way Chase. Come out here to Little Sahara Recreation Area. I work my way up this path. All right, we're about to go live. Seconds away. The countdown just ended. I'm just importing one picture from Jeroen. Jeroen! The one I wanted is 2419 and 2420. Uncheck all. I'm going to make sure these are importing. Click the play button, and we're going to get started. Welcome in, everybody. Looks like my audio is on. Good things. SM Wilkes is here. Paul's here. Chris is here. SS Mold. We have SM Wilkes and SS Mold. You guys are from the same family. Tim Bradley, Chris Woodruff, David Carpenter, Chris Whiting, Teresa Weiss, Sharon West, Kathy Hanahan, Argus Ray, Ron S., Bill Shipley, Blake Farrett, Nevada, which is Andy, and Bill Shipley was the first one here tonight. So, hey, welcome in, everybody. Let's get started. Woo! Milky Way Wednesday, and we are back. And we're back for a short little skirt until the Christmas season. Now, there's going to be another episode every week until, what was it, the last day? Looking at my calendar on my phone real quick, I just want to double check. So Wednesday of the 7th, the 14th, and the 21st will happen, but then there won't be one on the 28th, and then I'll be back in 2023 on January 4th. So if you're making any schedule for joining me on Milky Way Wednesday here at 7 p.m., we're going to be back for 3 weeks in a row after this, and then off for 1 week and back on January 4th. So there's a few things that we need to talk about coming into our Milky Way Wednesdays now. And December is going to be our first chance to play around with the format that we're going to do in 2024. So let me bring in the audience here. Hey, welcome in, everybody. Alan's here. Hey, from snowy Tacoma. Is it snowing right now? Oh, man. We had a little bit of snow, and then it melted pretty quickly. Every day between now and Christmas, it has to snow. That's my requirement from the weather gods, but they just aren't following along. Hey, it's Jerry in Utah. Welcome, Jerry. So here we go. Our schedule is going to be such that every month is going to be dedicated to a challenge. I'm going to challenge you, and starting next week on the 7th of December, I'm going to give you a link to start submitting the submission for the challenge. This first month, December's month, is going to be a winter Milky Way panorama. So you have now to capture it, and then in January, I'll give you another challenge to do for January, and I'll let you know what it's going to be on the 21st. We already decided it in the previous week, Milky Way Wednesday, and I do not remember exactly what it was. There was something we had an idea for, and I've totally forgotten what it was. Someday we'll check it, make sure I do the one that I've already promised about it. So January will be that Milky Way challenge, and then we'll have a February and March. And so you're going to have a schedule ahead of time which challenge is coming up. That way you have a couple months to fulfill them. Even though there will be a challenge per month, it's not required that you capture the image for the challenge during that month. And here in the beginning, honestly, if any of you want to use an older image that's a favorite of yours that meets the challenge, perfectly allowed. Perfectly allowed. So that way we can celebrate what you captured and show off what's working, and then those of us who can get out there and do a new image can capture a new image together and be a part of it. And what will happen is that on December 7th, I will let you have the link so you can start submitting your winter Milky Way panorama. The requirements are simple. Just make sure it's an obvious panorama and any foreground you want. There's no requirement in the foreground. Better the image, the better, but if you have nothing in the foreground, that's fine. Just capture a winter Milky Way. It's going to be a big challenge. You don't have to have an astro-modified camera yet, but you're going to love it if you have it, and if you're not star tracking, you're going to wish you were star tracking, because it is the fainter band. I keep doing this like the more you know rainbow, but that is the band that is going to be very faint and not look like much without astro-modification or star tracking. And so we're going to want to make sure that you get some time to do that. You have all of December to do it, but hand it in as soon as you got it. And then on the 21st, that's the last Wednesday of the month this time, where I will be celebrating those that you've created, you've captured, and I'll talk about the ones that are my favorites, and I'll pick a favorite. It'll be the photog favorite of the month, and I'll do one every month all of 2023, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So we're going to have a lot of different challenges, very specific challenges, like this one's a little more broad, but the next one and the couple might be something like get a Milky Way over a man-made subject. Get a Milky Way that is light polluted and you pulled it out of the light pollution. Get a Milky Way that's vertical, that's between two obvious foreground subjects. Get something that's symmetrical. Get something that's non-symmetrical. Stuff like that. Challenges over reject rocks. You know, don't go to Delicate Arch or go to the view over Island of the Sky in Utah, but go to somewhere in Utah that really no one knows and capture a Milky Way over that. Make something great over an unnamed, very few people know. Now we're talking in the thousands people know about it, not the millions that are people posting, you know what I mean? So those kind of challenges will be every month, and we're doing that. We'll dedicate 2 episodes of every Milky Way Wednesday on every month about that, beginning talking about the challenge, giving the link, and then having a lesson. Well, then in the final week episode, will be dedicated to sharing pictures of yours. So I'll be teaching 3 to 4 lessons a week, with one Milky Way Wednesday dedicated to just reviewing your images and talking about what went so well. So welcome in, everybody. I am stoked to be doing this challenge. All of the western side of the United States to capture a panorama over there. I've never captured a panel that direction when it comes to Milky Way or Astro. So I'm excited to see what foregrounds really work for that and what just is going to be awesome. It's going to be finally a portfolio of different foregrounds that I haven't had in the past. And I'm excited about that newness. So now let's get into today's discussion. Today's discussion is focused on star color. Now, we're going to go through this topic for the first time together, and there's going to be some things that come up. And already in my preparation of this, I'm thinking, okay, while I have some good examples from the same location, it's not the same without kind of a dedicated measure of the color, a dedicated lens and camera consistency. Let's just see what it would look like with a more performative study, more controlled study, and it's going to be fun to do another part of this in the future. But for now, here we go. Let's talk about the star color and the challenges of us blowing out our star color with our higher ISO or with something else like a setting that is making it that all of our stars are white instead of black. And now let's go into what I have saved, make sure that it's all here. Oh, you know what? Let's see. Let's also add the most recent ones that I posted. I just barely pulled them in. 2 images from Jeroen, and we're going to bring them in. Are they going to show up at the end of my list? Or oh, yeah, they will. Cool. Because they were most recent for them. That's perfect. Okay, cool. Awesome. So, again, welcome in. Hit me up with an all caps question in the chat over here. I'll be watching on my screen over there for any questions that come through. But let's talk about full screen, star color, maintaining the star color, and let's enjoy that together now. So coming off of me here, looks like we don't have any audio running twice, so that's really good news. That's a change. And we're going to talk about star color. What are star colors? Let's just give a quick Google to the star colors. When you look at stars, there's just a couple. Oh, cool. Roger Clark. This is a great site for this discussion. So we're looking at star color because he is very keen on color accuracy. And so this is going to be fantastic. And I mention Roger Clark all the time. So the natural color of stars range from a blue to a white to a yellow to a red. So you've got yellow, amber to red. Then you have these white yellows and the blue whites and then blue stars. And no better does this come through very obviously than in the Orion constellation. In the Orion constellation, you are going to see 2 very bright stars that stand out among all of them, and those are yellow and, okay, I don't want to watch that website. Let's just go to my pictures because you'll see him here too. So let's open up this one right here. Let's start with the other one. Yeah, let's go this one, then I'll bring it over. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to bring it over here first so you can see it there. Very obviously, in this image, that is simply a ISO 1600, 2-minute exposure, tracked, but stayed low. Oh, I'm sorry, no, this is non-tracked. Oh, what was that setting? Let's go back over here. Go to my quick collection. Dun-ba-bum. This one with the lower arch. That was 2950. 2950. Oh, I am selecting 2590. And that's 2950 as well. Why does that keep changing back and forth between both? They're saying that both images are 2950. Is it hearing me? Let's go back here. Okay, cool. All right. This is 2950, and the settings were 10 seconds, ISO 8000, f2.8. And so in this picture when you're seeing here where it's been barely processed, just a tiny little processing on it, you automatically see that there's a big red, kind of like a faint red there. Let me pull in so you can really see what I'm talking about. There's a faint red here. There's a faint red here, because you got the North American and Barnard's Loop, and then you've got the big bright orange of Rigel, a massive, massive star. And then you have, I'm sorry, I'm pointing at Betelgeuse and saying Rigel. Rigel is the blue one, Betelgeuse is the orange one. And those stand out immediately, even in a scenario where I have blown it out at 8000 ISO, 10 seconds only, not tracked, at f2.8. Even in this scenario, this star maintains its color. So let's go back to the star color over in Roger Clark's. So you've got the brightness of Betelgeuse, and he doesn't mention it here, but this is Antares specifically. This is the color that Antares is. My favorite section of the sky to look at, and now coming into 2023, we're going to go back to watching the Rho Ophiuchi area and see how it moves to know where our Milky Way is going to be in an hour. And so they don't have Betelgeuse specifically on here, but this is an oranger color and a very bright star. I mean, look at this star comparison chart size. Let's just do that because these images are massive. So you got Arcturus, you've got Sun versus Arcturus, but then where does Betelgeuse come in? There we go. So if we were to look at just, it's a tweet. It's a tweet. We're going to look very big. Can you just make it large? Okay, cool. And let's just not worry about anything else. No, not now. So we got the Sun is this fleck. Sirius, the brightest magnitude star in our night sky, is that color, white and very, large compared to the Sun. Pollux is even bigger. Arcturus is even bigger. Rigel is massive and very blue. And then Betelgeuse is massive, massive, massive. It's like Jupiter to Earth comparison in size when it comes to Betelgeuse to the Sun. And then you have Antares, our Rho Ophiuchi, our very obvious orange-colored star. So you got this red giant Betelgeuse, and I'm assuming a red giant also for Antares, that are just these massive stars in our night sky, and their color comes through no matter what. And so this star comes through bright and yellow. But the rest of our stars, when we zoom in on them and we look at what they are, they're just a sea of white. It's just white. This is just nothing really to gather from it. But then if you've ever taken the time, I wanted to show that example from, over here on this. When you take a little bit of time and you do a long exposure and it trails a little bit, the colors start popping through. So we're going to do a comparison. I'm going to get this to compare XY. So this one and this one. And let's zoom in on both of them. So these are the same section of sky on both sides. Notice how when we're looking at these stars on the left, we really can't tell there's much color. They all pretty much look white and off-white. But when you see in the star trailing, you really capture the amber. Let's go in even greater. What if we go into 200%? Yeah, that'll be good, because then you'll see it even stronger. So the one streaks next to my face right here, you can really see the color popping through, and you can see the noise. Like, look at those red dots. I didn't even notice them in the other image at all, but in this long exposure, holding for 2 seconds at ISO 1600 f2.8 on a 30mm Tamron, the one action lens that's right here, this starts having some hot spots on my sensor for 2 minutes. But for 10 seconds, those hot spots don't show up. It's not a matter of what part of the sky they're in. They're just not showing up. And the brighter magnitude stars are really popping off. Look at that. See that extra purple cloud around this? That's because it's all the Orion Nebula right there. And then you go up here and you start seeing Witch's Head, and that is the Horsehead Nebula. And then continuing on, let's go up to Rigel. Big ol' Rigel. So all the stars surrounding Rigel, you see the oranges, the yellow, the blues, the whites. We haven't found a very red one, but that's mostly because I'm not going to capture too much of the red. I think this is a little too red. I don't know if it's necessarily a very red star or just, well, it couldn't be a temporary glitch on my camera because it's consistent in 2 different images, one after another. If I go to the timing, 8:05 and 8:02, so it's really right after each other. Yeah, they're very consistent, so it must be a very yellow, a very red star right there, and it is coming through after all. Awesome. Look at how close these 3 stars are in kind of a pattern, and then they really show up here, almost like Morse code, dash, dot, dot, dash. And so looking at these stars up close when you do a long exposure like this, the star colors start to pop off. I mean, you might have noticed it in your own star trail images that you start to get colors where you didn't before. Let's go into some of those. Let's go and just look for star trails. If you look for star trail images, you're going to see a lot of them where they're very black and white or kind of blue and white images. You know, that's classic blue and white, but then you start to see all these colors. Let's zoom in really fat on this. And you can see those colors popping in this situation. Oh, that's interesting. I was hitting spacebar and it just kind of scrolled all the way to the bottom, and it was kind of nice. But looking at all of those lines and how they start to pop in together with all the different ambers to blues to white to red, they pop off in this kind of a capture where they don't pop off in a single exposure. For instance, say something of mine that I absolutely love as an image, I show it all the time. Look at how there is no star color whatsoever. I mean, this is even a little compressed being in a JPEG, but there's just yellow and white, yellow and white. And Terry's, there's some yellowish coloring there compared to the white around it, but nothing great. Just compression and white. Compression and white. This capture right here, actually I'll just go over here and do this. This capture right here, just white, white, white. When you come out and see these other images, they're just white and even noise. I mean, look at that. That's color aberration. I didn't even clean up the magenta that's on here. And I could even make this image that much stronger by cleaning up the individual red, pink noise areas here. So you're looking at, oh, that's Mary Beth's. That's awesome. This right here is another one. Same kind of example. Just all white, all white, all white, all white. So when you look at what's happening here, let's go back into, let's go back into Lightroom. And we're going to compare a few more images. Let's come out of XY. And let's look at an image. Let's see. Let's go to the develop module so I can see the info fast. Let's zoom out. This is at 10 seconds, f2.8, 8000 ISO, and 8000 ISO, 8000 ISO, 8000 ISO. So I did a quick little time lapse to show an example of these same settings at 8000 ISO. And then you notice something changes, but that's not what I want to talk about yet. Let's look at another example towards the beginning of this. So when I start here, I capture it at 8000 ISO. Here's Orion. And then the next one I capture with the star tracker running, and then the next one with the actual, well, I guess I started running 2-minute exposure, but didn't have the tracker running. So let me go ahead and just kill that one because I've done that so we can compare these two. So let's go back, compare back side by side, look at the same sections of the sky. One side on the left is 10 seconds, f2.8. And you know what? Maybe I should mix this down just a little bit so you don't miss some of the details next to my head. I'm going to cover the histogram. Forgive me there. And you know what? I'm going to get my navigator to not show. When was the last time I've ever turned that off, actually? Let's stop showing the navigator. I don't think I've ever turned that off. Can I? Maybe someone can tell me, but I want to see no navigator, no navigator. That's not really an option that's fast. I've never turned that off, actually, this whole navigator catalog side, collections, everything. So just to make it as much visible as possible, I'm covering the histogram in a little bit of this picture right here. But I wanted to show off how at 10 seconds, f2.8 ISO 8000, the comparison with no real edits done to either of these. They're both RAWs. 120 seconds, so 2 minutes, f2.8, same f-stop, but then 1600 ISO. So what I did is I just went ahead and did a low ISO compared to a high ISO. And how does it compare in color value? Just longer exposure is obviously bringing out Witch's Head and Horsehead Nebula. You can tell that that's there next to Orion Nebula. That's all becoming very visible. But what about the colors of the stars? How many more are visible where in here they weren't, and they weren't having any color on them? Well, in this example, it's slightly difficult to see the minor differences between 8000 ISO and 1600. But if I go forward to say, you know, I better take off the XY. Let's go forward to the one I was showing you where the clouds came in and caused a diffusion that made these pop. I'm going to go, you know what? They're not going to be in the same position because I did move that. So let's just look at it by itself then. Let's just totally see one image by itself and see the differences. So when you've got the clouds that pop in on you, look at how this has changed. Let me just go ahead and fit it and go back and forth so you can see the change. Look at the stars and how they go from, here's some color, and then the color starts coming and popping off the screen as it comes brighter into those clouds. And this is completely slow reacting. I can't tell where I've gone too far. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. it's not very helpful for you to see it like that, but you can tell how in the beginning this was not a bloated star, but just a little more color, even less color before it starts bloating by the cloud. But when the cloud starts bloating it, those colors pop off really, really well. And let's just do 100%. So as you're looking around, the yellow pops incredibly intensely. The blue pops. Can we get anything else coming off other than amber and yellow and white, blue? Looks like none of the higher magnitude stars in this capture have anything but those colors. Let's look at another part of the sky where I was out with Alan Wallace. I had this open, but I must have closed that window. Did I close the window? Yeah, I closed the window. Crap. Let's look at... Let's use these as thumbnails so I can see what's in there. And... Oh, man. Where are they? Reveal yourself. These are the shots that I captured in Mono Lake in July, where I went ahead and used Alan's star filter that then really helps the colors pop off. But I'm not seeing the folder that has them open right here. And so I'm just going to kind of navigate all of these. What is going on? Milky Way Wednesday. Oh, there they are. It must have been a whole different folder I was looking at. Okay, cool. Here we go. So this, with the star filter on, you can see more of the colors, but the reds are still a little too faint because the red is coming through a... you guys will have to help me here because I haven't really studied all of the gas compounds that make the color. I think it's just the infrared side is going to see the pinks better, and so the red stars are not going to pop off as much without an astromodified camera. And so when we look at an astromodified image, we can compare it, but I wonder how well it would look without it being actually white balanced, because I do have one on here. If I go back to my first images with this guy, because back in Joshua Tree, oh, that's gone back too far. Where's the Joshua Tree? It was after Moab. It was after Bistai. It was after Bistai. There we go. Now, the problem is it's not been modified. It's modified, but it hasn't been adjusted. And this hasn't been adjusted. That was the really quick one we did during the live stream. So let's look at one of these where we have a good part of the sky. Do I have a good Antares? It's all stuck in that light pollution of Joshua Tree, unfortunately. So let's zoom out and let's modify this and balance out the color. Ooh, that was interesting. So I'm getting some of that magenta out. I'm going very low to do it. But this is taken all hasty and looks like it's even out of focus. Cool. I wish I could show off the magenta showing up on a processed one, but I just don't have one yet. I don't have one yet. It was a heinous year, and I could not go back in and edit that any better. So I need to go back and do that. Like I said, there's a part 2 I need to do on this. I'm talking about star color. So when you're thinking about my comparisons and you're seeing how the yellows are popping more, definitely getting some blues instead of all just white, instead of all just, you know, completely blown out white stars on white background with white stars on black background and white. Without just getting that, you start to get some really neat performance. Let's look at this other folder you're hiding from me. This one shows how with the star tracker on the edit versus this image, they're so much stronger having the tracked shot, bringing out that color and making the star color pop. You see Barnard's Loop instantly, even with very minimal edit here, no real processing, and you're already seeing Barnard's Loop show up. Where here you got kind of an idea that it's there, but nothing like with the longer shutter. So longer shutter instantly already helps you with color. But then the question is asked, what happens when you try and do too long of a shutter? Is it possible to go too far with shutter, which also blows it out? And let's see, error, YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. I guess whenever I do the quick pictures back and forth, it jumps around. Oh my gads. There's spam. Hideous. I'm gonna get rid of this real quick. And it looks like I have to do this on each one. Oh, come on. So I don't think any of these shown up, thankfully. So that's good. But I don't want this to show up later if I don't do this now. Okay, cool. All right, I haven't seen any all caps questions. Click the arrow. Oh, I don't know where I was, but he was probably talking about something very helpful for me there. So looking at this color performance and just a change in ISO as well as a longer shutter, you really start bringing out just the yellows and blues for the most part. And then the pinks and reds start showing up, but there's not a bright magnitude star. If we had the Roa Fuki complex, you would be seeing a more pink red star next to Antares, but we're not going to get that in these examples that I have with us right now. The website that I want, this one, cool. So if you're looking at the Roa Fuki complex, I can't spell behind my mic, Phiu, Roa Fuki. When you look at these images, you'll see what I'm talking about because you get that really big pink nebula off of that star. Maybe it's even more accurate to say that the nebula around it is red and not that the actual star itself is red. Let's be honest, it looks like that is a white star underneath all of that. So we'd see more of that pink if we had an example of Antares, which is what I'm looking forward to doing in the spring, is a comparison of this as well. But thanks to Jeroen, we have an example test that shows us up to 6 minutes of shutter and how the star performance handles, and that's how we're going to go through the rest of this. I haven't seen any questions come through that are pressing, so we'll go ahead and move on. We beat the dead horse that star color does get blown out with the higher exposure of ISO. As it just starts to go so bright, you end up killing what was really neat about your sky. And you don't want that. You want to avoid that, and the best way is to kill your ISO, bring it way down, but you need to bring up your exposure still, so a longer shutter doing a tracker is one of the best ways to fix that. And then we get into Jeroen's shot. And before we do that, I want to pull up his message on Instagram because I want to report what he was talking about while also point you towards his YouTube channel. He's been following Photog Adventures since the beginning. He's really been a part of it, and he's learned a lot through watching these videos, and he's talked to me for a long time. But he's also gone on and taken on the challenge of doing his own channel. And so I subscribe to it, but I want to make sure that I've got it before I pull it up because I'm going to go through all of my subscriptions on here. And I want to make sure all of you say thanks to Jeroen for this by going to his channel, hit subscribe, and wait for content. He's out in the Netherlands, and he's got really interesting content in challenging areas with light pollution that'll be fun to follow and see how things go. So let's see, subscriptions, Aaron King subscription. Oh, this is just showing me the recent video. I want to just see the channels. Just show me the channel. Oh, is it really going to go in order like this? Just got to make sure I have his. I've subscribed to a lot on this, actually. There's a lot. Here we go, Starscaper. All right, cool. So Starscaper Pro, and let's pull up his page now. So if you have, you know, let me go to his Instagrams too. Instagram and Jeroen. I shouldn't whistle into the mic. I always forget that. Jeroen Linnenkamp. Awesome. Okay. So let's bring him in now. Let's share the screen with it. So this is his site. This is Instagram right now. If you want to say thanks to Jeroen for doing this test, come in and share it with I'll go back. Go forward. Go to Jeroen. Oh, gads. I don't want that. Oh, gads. These are all just Instagram, Jeroen Lin. There we go. I had it open, but it went to the story only, and then it just pulled back in to just show me all random stuff on Instagram, stuff that the algorithm's like, hey, you're a dude, you want to see this? And it's like, oh, no, not during a live stream. Okay, all right, so here's the image that we are going to be seeing. I have the raws of this, and we have some images to compare as he went through this test off of the northern coast of the Netherlands, and despite the light pollution, he gets some really terrific shots. So going back in, let me make this nice and big. Jeroen Lin. Hit a follow. Oh, I haven't followed back yet? Okay, hit follow. Sorry, Jeroen. I thought I was following you, bro. So now we're following him, and you can thank him by doing that. You can see his YouTube channel, Starscaper Astrophotography, and he lives in Amersfoort in the Netherlands, and his YouTube channel is this one, Starscaper. And right here, he has the video of hanging out at this lighthouse that we're actually going to see some of the pictures from. You can see how things were going for him. I love it. Look at that lighthouse. Fantastic. And we even got some post-processing going on in here. So this will be a great video. Let's look at this. This final picture. Oh, I don't want it to go to mini player. I hovered too low. I just changed the video. But right here, he was showing the picture, the final one. And, oh, that's similar. It's the similar lighthouse, but it's not that picture that we're going to be looking at. So thank Jeroen by hitting subscribe on Starscaper. In fact, let me just go to his homepage again, select it, paste it right into the chat so that you can find Starscaper as well as his Instagram. And boom. So then on his Instagram and his YouTube channel, you can thank him by hitting a quick subscribe here. It'd be fun. So we're going to pull into some of the tests that he has done. And I'm going to read from his as I share you some of the pictures. And let's go into them. So let's make this nice and big. It's not distracting. I'm still sweating a little bit from having my Instagram have to show me chicks. You know, it's the worst how accurate the algorithm is. I'm a guy, and they hit me up with chicks, and I've actually subscribed to some girls through a dating app. I'm like, oh, okay, you want to talk on Instagram? And when you go and add a bunch of girls on Instagram as someone you're following so you can talk to them on Instagram because you're going through the dating app and they say, hey, come over to Instagram. We're not talking the catfish girls. We're talking the real ones. You put in like 7 girls in a row that you're adding, and then Instagram's like, oh, I see what you want. We're going to give you everything like this. And so now my Instagram is ridiculously messed up. It looks like one lonely dude is owning that Instagram, and I got to fix it. So looking through the messages here, you can see how he has captured this. This is a colored balanced 155 seconds. And here is the original shot before the color balancing. And then we go into the final image. Now 155 seconds, so 3 minutes of time here. And we're looking at 155 seconds. Yeah, 3 minutes of time, nearly 2.5 minutes. And we got another example over that water where you can see the combination, the final tracked shot plus stacking. And we're going to go in and compare these really tight. I'm going to go into Lightroom and look at the ones on my quick collection, which now are not found. It is my quick collection. Should be at the end, but it's not at the end. Porque. Let's go to all images. Maybe I didn't successfully put them in there. Let's go ahead and compare these ones. I am actually a little flustered. I was like, oh man. Tried to prevent that from being that crazy. All right, so looking at ISO 800, f-stop 4, 24 millimeter at 155 seconds versus 360 seconds. So we're looking at a lot more time. In fact, that's 6 minutes, right? Am I doing the math fast enough in my head? It is, right? 360 divided by 60 is 6 minutes. Yes, Aaron, you're accurate. Cool. When you're live streaming, it's hard to do math. So also, if you know me, it's hard to do math all the time. So you're looking at both of these images, comparing how the stars are showing up. The star color isn't just one big blob of white. You do have the color showing through. I'm looking at his corners. I'm looking at even the comb aberration section of his lens just to see the light that's coming through and seeing how well the color and the star colors are showing. Let's go back to his final edits of them. Let's zoom in. So in this one, this is not a final edit. This was the I want to go to these two. So color balanced and then the final.
Cool. So this is final 360 seconds, and this is final 155. And as I look in, you can see how the stars are not just white dots, definitely not at 155. How bad did those same stars go away after 6 minutes of exposure? Practically not at all. Practically not at all. Between what would typically be a white, horrifying, just sea of white and off-white, he is getting all sorts of different reds, blues, yellows, whites, yellow, 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 white, blue, red, red, red. You're seeing all sorts of them. Now, how many of these reds are just a little bit of color aberration? I don't know. Don't know for sure. But I know that we're getting a lot better performance than we're getting in this kind of capture like mine, where it's non-tracked, it's 8,000 ISO, and it's completely blown out. So as we look at Jeroen's images, you got the nice light pollution on the horizon. He can't get as much as he would want off of the detail there. But then you go and you blend it in with the cool foreground. He's got this capture. Now, these, obviously you're seeing that this isn't the same Milky Way. This is not this Milky Way brought in here. These are just his examples for us. And then when he captured his photo, he captured these and came together with these images. And looking at how well this is performing, I'm loving that. And here is that lighthouse. That lighthouse with star color. Fantastic. So let's look at this with just the stars. Nothing else, no distracting, no other elements like the foreground or even the Milky Way detail. Just looking at the stars. Look at how the stars are absolutely not white dots. They're just a sea, like ornaments on a tree. They are completely covered with color options, at least the classic star color options from, blue to red to yellow, amber. So as I'm looking at this and thinking about my performance of exposure, and I'm trying to keep my star color, should I be worried about a longer shutter? I mean, how many of us are really capturing beyond 6 minutes? And even at that point when you're tracking and going beyond 6 minutes, you're going to bring out some color in the sky just by virtue of nebulosity. Wherever part of the sky you're looking at, you're going to bring in some other detail and contrast with the core versus the dust lanes. There's so much detail popping off after that many minutes of an exposure that it's just a different worry than it is star color worry. And when it comes to that high ISO from 10 seconds to 8,000 seconds. Let's look at that again real quick. I want to go ahead and, let's go back into the quick collection. I want to look at these two again. So 10 seconds, 8,000 ISO versus 1,600 ISO on this side. You can see already that the difference for 2 minutes here on 1600 ISO versus 10 seconds at 8000 ISO, you've got better exposure for the sky. So the distant, more lower contrasting stars like in this space right here. Let me pull this over so you can see this star and this star, that triangle right here is this triangle right there. And on the inside of this triangle, you just see kind of smudges. When it's a longer exposure, not tracked, actually, no, it is tracked. It is tracked. Longer exposure tracked, that section inside the triangle is no longer a smudge, but you get some detail that you weren't getting before, as well as star color still coming through. So you look at the comparison of how much is being lost when it comes to color. I'm seeing just yellow and aberrant colors like the green. That's just kind of a default or an issue with the color exposure. This is just a raw. I haven't processed it and hasn't been color balanced yet either. I mean, look at the Rosette Nebula. Look at how much that, it looks like nothing here, but you start to see it here. And all the stars on the inside of it are completely white out. And like I was saying, I really want to get a good comparison photo. So I want to do this on Orion, and I want to do it on Antares, and I want to give some comparisons with long shutters on them, as well as high ISO exposures, where you can really tell the difference between what's happening here. Tonight, we've already shown exactly how white high ISO makes it, but I'd love to see how much some of the really important parts of Antares Rho Ophiuchi shows up with a long exposure versus a 10-second exposure. And I also want to show off, a dedicated 6-minute exposure of the entire Orion constellation and how much detail pops up there, among other locations in the night sky. I saw a message come through. Aaron, is the color coming out more because of better sensor saturation? Example, the color is fainter and thus needs more time to expose at lower ISO. Now, this is going to be my answer that as I understand it. I need to look into the science of this to give you a proper response. But when you look at how the ISO handles light, it's an amplifier of the light. And when it's amplifying the light, it will blow out faster all the star color because it's trying to bring that light up as much as it possibly can, and it just washes out the color with the higher ISO. A blown out color on these stars turn into, my picture like this, where there's just no detail, nothing interesting. This is just black and white. But when you track it, that's not tracked. So this is a good example of just a picture for a time lapse. You see the yellow here. You see the white. Okay, everything's white. All you really see is yellow up in that sky on the North Shore. This is all my frame captured. But when I captured a long exposure tracked, you can start to see how there is a lot more detail in the stars that are popping out. But at this, I would have to say, with this one, I didn't even get all that much detail. This is just 60 seconds versus 10 seconds. So I wouldn't say I wouldn't get, this is 2 minutes. 2 minutes versus 10 seconds. There could even be stronger when it comes to color, or my post-processing, that quick when I gave it, may have blown it out. So when you're looking at the high ISO amplifying the light, it causes the brighter parts of the star to get so bright that it just kind of washes out the color. When it comes to a long exposure where color is being more visible, the lower contrast color on top of the high color, you're not blowing it out with the high ISO. And with the long exposure, even though you're going so long, up to 6 minutes, he wasn't blowing out his exposure. He didn't have these stars go away just because it was 6 minutes long. Let's look at the full image here. So here is 155 seconds and here's 360 seconds. Even though we've got what you would think is the equivalent of a very long exposure of what the amplification of the high ISO was doing, you don't lose your stars. So what I want to do with my test is I want to do a 6 minute, a 1 minute, and do all of them in between. I want to do them at no ISO, high ISO, middle ISO. Look at them all in between. I also want to see the lens and the sensor of whatever camera I'm using, the performance of it throughout all of those being consistent, as well as seeing a spot in the sky that has some good example of star color that you would see in some pictures but not see in the others. And it'd be good to have that comparison. Because you go for a 6 minute star tracked shot and you change your ISO up really high where it doesn't blow completely out, how much does the star color go away, or does the long shutter start to help the star color persist? It's like, at what point from 1600, 3200, 4000, 5000 ISO, at what point does that star color start to get washed out? And that's a test that's needing to be done. But we can prove that with a, what was his settings again? I'm going to go back to Jeroen's settings. Remember, go to Jeroen Lin at Instagram, Jeroen Lin, Linnenkamp, and also go to his channel, sorry, what was it? Starscaper. Oh, of course, remember that, Starscaper, his YouTube channel. Subscribe to it, join him. He's got these new videos out, and he's going to be doing some more, and it's going to be fun. For anyone who lives in Europe, you're going to probably enjoy seeing someone's perspective of that challenge that they deal with out in Europe that you're familiar with. Come all the way to the end. Okay, so let's just go to the built modules so I don't have a comparison. This is 360 at f4 ISO 800, and this one's at 155 seconds f4 ISO 800. So how much does the stop down with the f-stop affect it? How much would it be at an f1.4? How much would it be at f800 versus f3200? Or I'm sorry, ISO 3200 and ISO 800? And how much would it affect it based off of different seconds? There's all sorts of good tests that need to be done, but thank you to Jeroen for doing this test that gives us the answer on, will a shutter by itself, with the settings that you're currently using, and you go for an extreme shutter like 6 minutes, are you going to start blowing out your stars anyway? And the answer is no. He kept his track. The tracker remained maintained. And if you're using a tracker and you track like we do with a laser pointer, you're going to find yourself losing the tracked shot anyway after 6 minutes. So I bet no one here is really going to need more than that. But I'm glad to see that the star color stayed the same. Ah, man, this has been an interesting and boring conversation all at the same time. I got to admit, talking about the star colors and looking at these examples and comparing them back and forth, I really wish it had some more meat to it, but it doesn't. It is just a nerdy conversation about the micro minutia of anally looking at and peeping close at our images and thinking, oh, what else can we get out of this and fix? One of my favorite reasons from going from a picture that is... No, let's go back over here. Where are you, folder? One of my favorite reasons of stopping with capturing with a, non-tracked image and using stationary is that I want to get my star colors to really work out. I want my images to have everything they can to look even better when I'm out there and doing this. And a star tracker, I love how much more detail I see. I love how much more the core shows up and how bright it is. And I also just love how I won't have to blow my stars out anymore. I'll have fantastic color even if I go for a 2-minute exposure, 6-minute exposure. With my settings staying below 1600 ISO, I can't imagine it being an issue anymore. I mean, look at this shot over here at Royce Bear Milky Way Butte. I love this image and I want to make it even stronger, and I love this low horizon core. But everything is either purple or white, with an exception to the giant Arcturus. This isn't Arcturus, this is Antares. This giant star Antares right here, just how it shows up nice and yellow, and nothing else has its own definition. There's also a Tiffin fog filter that I would love to use to bring out the star colors and show off how neat the star colors can be. I'm gonna watch that time lapse again. It's too cool. That's me out there with James. James might even be here tonight. Michael McKeague says, hey, see page 110 of Alan Wallace's book for discussion of why high ISO decreases dynamic range. To avoid saturated stars, use the low ISO and longer exposure, which is the message of tonight, is that you got to use a lower ISO and just get a longer exposure to get everything you need out of a nicer exposure of the subject without blowing out the star color. And that was obvious, and we don't have to worry about a long exposure possibly ruining that goal and blowing out your stars at that point. The high ISO just ruins all of that. It just blows them out. It's not great. And he goes into it in detail in Alan's book. So go ahead and check out Alan's book on page 110. The sensor loses color sensitivity data at high ISO. I mean, that's a great point from Joe Choi. That it's just the sensor itself at a higher ISO performance-wise, it just doesn't have color sensitivity. And if it loses color sensitivity, it starts going into that aberrant purple, magenta, and white, and you just got nothing. So when you have lower ISO not happening, it's not part of the process of your exposure, you now have saved it from ruining the colors of all those stars. All right, cool. Man, this is like in the weeds, nerdy discussion. I'm not leaving this with a happy thought, but let's hear Jeroen's thoughts on how his testing went. So he says in here that Oh, where did it go? Where did the paragraphs go? Here we go. I guess this is not going to loop for us, so I'm just going to use Brendan and I here. He goes, for the rest on how I like it. He's like, I mainly aim to retain as much star color as possible by doing a tracked sky stack of about 10 shots of ISO 800 or sometimes 1600. Jeroen says, before post-processing, I like to make a starless version through StarNet. It's a free software, so that I can stretch the heck out of the Milky Way without blowing up the stars, which is necessary when I'm in a Bortle 4, like these images he was sharing. In fact, let's go into his cool images while we do that. Instead of looking at Brendan and I, let's look at Jeroen's Instagram. Let's do that. Where are you? So many windows. So many windows. Lost. Okay, Jeroen. Let's go through some of his cool pictures. So when Jeroen, goed zo, jongen. That's an awesome picture. I love that. Look at how intense that is. It's like a Stranger Things picture. But here it is. Let's look through all of these. Can I just change them this way? No, I can't. Bummer. Hey, it looks like Blake Ferris already liked it. Thanks, Blake. Fantastic. You're a good man. And so looking at, I just can't scroll through here. I guess I'll just have to keep changing it. I'll just keep changing it over time. I thought I could, though. I'll just show it big like this because you're looking at them big. Jeroen says, in StarNet, the free software, he stretches the Milky Way without blowing up because he's out there in a Bortle 4, and it's hard to get any serious detail out of a Bortle 4. So after editing the sky, I work on a nice color balance and saturation on the stars, on a stars only version, like we were seeing here, this black one. This is his stars only version, so he actually edits this typically so that he can use it in his image and bring back the star color. His main concern used to be that I didn't dare to expose past the peak at 1/3 of the histogram. His Royce Bear histogram, he was afraid to go past that peak because he was afraid, though it seems to add some challenges in relatively light polluted areas. Yeah, when you expose to the right in a light polluted area, it helps bring some details back that you wouldn't have to do here in the low Bortles of southern Utah. So he goes, the side effect, he goes, I was surprised that the peak at 2/3 of the histogram did retain most of the star color. The side effect of the longer exposure is that the Milky Way detail shows up better. So see the Cygnus region, which pops way more in the long exposure. Let's compare that right now. So here's the shorter exposure. Here's the longer exposure, the Cygnus region. So up here, that Cygnus region, very low detail at 155, but really pops at 360. So when it gets to 6 minutes, it really starts popping nicely. So then he says, though it seems, I thought I read that. Cygnus region. Okay, cool. As a result of the test, I will probably expose more to the middle than before in Bortle 4, and I'm going to dare to try exposing more to the right in Bortle 3 or below. A typical exposure for me is around ISO 800 to 1600 at f4. It's acceptable coma on my Sigma lens, 14 to 24 f2.8. He says he would indeed be around 1 to 2 minutes normally for his shutter length. And he says, by the way, you're too kind for spamming my YouTube and Instagram. No problem, man. Other than embarrassing myself with the recent dating apps going on to Instagram and making girls show up, the only recommendation I get now are girls, and I just look like a typical guy, I guess. Other than embarrassing myself there, I'm happy to go into Instagram and show them off. Remember when I used to go in here and show Mary Beth Kaczynski and I barely used my Instagram? I never had anything to embarrass myself, but now... I still have a little bit of a sweat behind my brow just because of that moment. I'm like, ugh, girls, don't do that. So thank you, Jeroen, for doing this test and sharing with me those images, and so that we can prove the one thing that we were trying to prove was that a longer shutter, no matter how long it is not going to do the damage to the color of the stars the way that an ISO does from just 1600 up to 5000 up to 8000. Now, where does that really start changing? It will depend on your camera sensor. It will depend on your gear. But when it comes to my gear, I'm going to give you an answer for a 5D Mark IV. I'm going to give you an answer with a Astro modified camera, and what it does is I borrow one from Clarence Spencer at spencerscamera.com. I'm going to borrow one of his cameras and go out and do the same test as well. And so at the beginning of this live stream, I was asked by who was it? It was Bill, I thought, right? No, it was Andy. Andy came on and he's like, is the night sky keeping you busy? And I thought after he asked that, because he was asking, I think, both me and Bill. And I was like, it's not. It's not keeping me busy right now. I haven't been able to get out there as much as I want to just yet. But the holidays are busy. It was nice having a week off last week. But now I'm excited to get out there and do my Winter Milky Way Challenge and make sure I come away with something as well as this test and just keep updating everybody. So again, Jeroen Lin, Jeroenlin on Instagram, as well as Starscaper, and you just find him through Starscaper at YouTube, and you'll find his videos, and it'll be fun to watch his videos, see his work, and keep up with him, because I'm looking forward to hanging out with him in the Netherlands and having some casas. So thanks, Jeroen. Bedankt hoor. Bedankt. Let's look at any comments that have come through before I end this. It's such a nerdy conversation today. There could be so many more fun discussions when you don't have to go into some of the weeds. I don't normally like to go in the weeds, but today I thought it would be fun to do, and I'm already like, man, too much weed, too many minutes in the weeds, because too much weed sounds way different. So I hope that is at all helpful for anyone thinking about whether they're worried about a long exposure blowing out the stars the way the high ISO does. Keep your star color. Keeping the star color is another way to polish your already cool image and make it that much stronger. How great would it be to see my my awesome panorama over an awesome reflective mirror salt flats and do that capture again, but with a star tracker that's keeping the star color in every frame of the panorama, as well as getting some great detail with an astro-modified camera and showing me all those cool Cygnus area red nebulas over there. And it's like, oh, that same image could just be a miracle of glory with all those correct, better quality changes that I can make versus an 8-second, 8,000 ISO panel, boom, 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 boom on a stationary camera, a 2-minute exposure, non-stars blown out exposure, really great capture of all the reds and the nebulas because of the astromodification, and then do the same 9 to 10 panel with another panel row of 9 to 10 images for the reflection. Oh, it will be crazy cool. I can't wait to do it. I hope we get a flood out in the salt flats again. So on that same note, before I end this, let me just show you guys one last thing. So just in case you weren't aware of this, I had a few questions about this week. Before I go, I want to talk about it. So I had a few questions from people asking about my workshops, and they're like, hey, what's up with your page? You go to workshops.photogadventures.com, you're going to see that I have all of the 2023 and the 2024 workshops mentioned here. So the 2024, right, that is just the 2023 workshops. 2024 has been planned, and I am adding them next. But 2023, I've separated into seasonal sections. So when you go in here, you'll see that 2023 adventures include spring workshops, where you have an early morning Milky Way pano from 2 a.m. through sunrise. So if you're thinking real quick, okay, I want to go out with Aaron on a Milky Way tour, but I don't know if I want to do an early morning, stay up all night kind of workshop, you'll know that these 4 are not for you. So you'll continue on to the summer, where it starts out right after sunset and it goes as long until the morning as you want, especially in May and June. And so we're looking at all my summer workshops from May all the way through July. And then I have a fall and late summer workshop list of 4 workshops, my final 4 workshops, going from August through the annular eclipse in southern Utah. So when you thinking about coming and joining me, let's go for this size. When you're thinking about coming and joining me for a workshop, these pages are going to work. The question was, Aaron, I came here and I wanted to learn more about your workshops, but none of these buttons do anything. Yeah, none of them do right now. I've intentionally done that because I was debating on doing a deposit sale, a deposit-only sale for Black Friday and Cyber Monday, but I decided not to do it. And when I try and do sales like that, I don't want anyone coming in here and buying it at the $950 price of a deposit and then finding out that they could have actually had it for only, the discounted version. And I don't want to have people do that, so I turned off all these buttons. But tomorrow I am going to finish all these buttons and finish their sales pages for some sales pages that I haven't finished yet, and they will be active and you can join me. I sent out an email to the email list. You should have seen it, where it shows how there are some that are nearly sold out. Like this one actually is sold out right now. This one, 2 slots only, that's been taken by Hudson and his daughter, so that one's sold out now. And there did end up being one more slot available on the May 21st Escalante. I haven't heard from someone. I don't expect them to be there, and so I'm going to give away his spot, and I'll work it out with him on, whether or not he's coming in a future one. So there is one spot there available still, and the Death Valley one was almost sold out too. There's only 3 slots left, and I think that's down to 2. I need to update this. So Death Valley is almost sold out too. So if you want to check out these workshops, give me until tomorrow night, and you can click on this and see the information as well as sign up for them. And that's why these buttons aren't working right now. I apologize. If you got an email from me today, check them out. I've hooked you up with some answers, and you can get more information from me there. Awesome. I need to bail. You guys need to bail. It's the end. Faster's here. Sorry for being late. It will be forgiven, my friend. It will be forgiven. No worries. Where is my button? Right there. Whew. Okay, cool. I'm Aaron King with Photog Adventures. It's been a nerdy, kind of quasi-boring, I'm just going to say it, episode talking about star colors, because had like 70 images to talk about the same thing over and over again, and even I am bored. So I apologize for it being too much in the weeds and too nerdy of a discussion, but some of you kind of enjoy that stuff, so maybe you had a great time thinking about, so 6 minutes will not burn through my color. Fantastic news. I'm glad that that's happening. So thanks for hanging out with me tonight. I'll be back next Wednesday. I'll be giving you a link to submit your Milky Way Challenge image, and you'll have up until the 21st to submit your image for the Milky Way Challenge for December's challenge. And on the 21st, I'll be going through the images, picking my favorites. If I get enough submissions, I'll only show some of them. If I only get what I kind of expect to get, around 20, I'll show everyone's images that come through there. And I'll make a promise to show at least everyone's, but I won't take as much time except for my top 10. And then I'll do an actual Milky Way moment of envy for all those top 10s. And then I'll reveal my absolute favorite for December, and you'll be my photog favorite for December. And we'll be doing this every month. For the 2023 year, it's going to be a lot of Milky Way challenges between us. I'll participate, you're participating. We're going to have a lot of fun doing some images together. So good night, everyone, says Blake. Thank you so much for coming. Joe Choi, so what's up with the Winter Milky Way panel shoot? I missed it. Okay, Joe, it is a challenge where you need to capture a winter Milky Way, not looking east, looking west. You're going to capture that full band. The challenge requires that it's a winter Milky Way, and that's it. Having a foreground or not having a foreground is up to you. The better the image, the more chance it'll be my photog favorite. But then if you get a nice foreground looking west and you get that panel that does, the nice full arch, but the winter Milky Way arch, it doesn't have to be astro-modified, but like we were talking about, it's way better if it is. And tracked as well is more fantastic, but we're going to get that Milky Way panel and submit those. You're going to submit them starting next week and all the way through to the 21st. If you haven't captured one yet, you have it until the 20th to go capture one. And if you have captured one already, feel free to use it and submit yours for the challenge. So it's just basically get out there and do some photography, that kind of challenge. So thanks so much. Paolo's here. Hey, Paolo. Ciao, ciao. And I still can't get on your email list, Chris says. That's weird. 6 minutes, 18 panels. Oi. Chris Whiting is talking about that panorama and how much of a nightmare that would be. I can still go 6 minutes, but imagine doing 6 minutes. Now, we've proven it with an extreme. I would still only do about 2 minutes for my track shot, but still, that's a lot. Ugh, the pano and the track shots are no fun. They're not terribly fun. You bet, Joy. No problem, Joy. I changed your name from Joe Choi to Joy. But Joe, you bet, man. No worries. Jerry Thompson says thanks. Dave says everyone have a good night. And I think I've hit everyone there. So thank you guys so much. Have a good night. And I will see you next Wednesday. And we'll be doing some more Milky Way Wednesday and have another lesson. I don't know what it's going to be yet. But I can promise you right now, it won't be in the weeds like it was today. Man, I loved it and hated it at the same time. It was so nerdy.